Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, everybody. It is time for Cub Chat Live. I'm Aaron. We are joined by our good friend, Lisa. How are you doing today, Lisa?
I'm doing great, Aaron. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Lisa is the volunteer chair of the National Cub Scouting Committee. Always a pleasure to have her on. And today's topic, folks, this was announced, something that was announced last spring, actually. Brian on Scouting last spring, we did a story about 19 elective adventures that were going to be retired at the end of this current program year. Well, this current program year is kind of winding down. We're in our last 2 or 3 months or so. So we're here just to kind of give you guys an update, maybe clear the air a little bit, kind of recap why this decision was made and how it affects you guys going forward. As always, this is your chance to ask questions. Lisa, I don't know anything. But Lisa is extremely bright, extremely smart. That's why we have her on. She is here to answer questions. I'm going to start with the first question, Lisa. As we start our conversation today, let's just recap again for everybody. If you don't know, this was announced on Brown on Scouting last May, 19 Cub Scout elective adventures that are being retired. These adventures were not just chosen at random. This was not a decision that we made lightly. So as we get started today, Lisa, maybe just kind of fill us in. How was this decision made? How do you come to these kind of conclusions and decisions? And then we'll start talking after that about what it means going forward.
Great. Yeah, sure. So part of the job of the National Cub Scouting Committee is to constantly be examining the content of our program because we are responsible for content. And so we create content that's easy to deliver for our den leaders and our units. So we always look at what do we have? What are we offering? Do people like it? Do people not like it? And while we didn't survey people about these exact adventures, and we're working on that. We hope to do that in the near future. What we did is we took a look at our sales data. And we don't look at it just for 1 year. We looked at it for the last 5 years. So we went back to 2015 and looked at our sales data of each of our elective adventures. And we also looked at our advancement reports and looked at those at our elective adventures. We kind of took a minute to say, well, who's doing what? What do people seem to spend most of their time on? And we came up with, there's about 19 of them that less than 10% of our youth are actually working on. And this, again, was over a 5-6 year period. So we took the opportunity. Supply reached out to us. We had a conversation with them, and we took the opportunity to say, you know what, these just don't seem to be particularly popular, and we'd like to go ahead and cull them from the program, provided that we have a mechanism for doing that. So we went ahead last year at this time and made the announcement that this program year, the 21-22 program year, would be the last year that you could actually earn those adventures. So here we are again. I know that we always have new people joining our program, so this might be new news to some people, but that's why we do this multiple times to get the information out. So again, it's the National Cub Scouting Committee took a look at the sales data and the advancement data, and we made a determination that over the past 5 years, kids weren't working on them.
Okay, very good to know. Thank you, Lisa, for that recap. Quick shout out to Alexander, who's watching from Amman, Jordan. They always tune in. We very much appreciate all of our international viewers. Any questions for Lisa and I as we continue this discussion today? We're going to move on now to kind of, what does this mean to you, the current Cub Scout family, Cub Scout leader, maybe even current Cub Scout themselves? What does this mean to you going forward? We're going to get into some specifics here about the impact kind of on other programs, right? The NOVA Awards, the World Conservation Awards, and there's a couple of other items and things that it might impact. But maybe just in general, Lisa, can you tell us, for a den leader who's watching this, what does it mean going forward?
So at the end of this program year, at the beginning, at the end of May, and well, I'm going to backtrack. I say at the end of June, sometime in June, you will no longer see these elective adventures available on Scoutbook or the Den Leader Experience. The kids that have already earned them, we will be archiving them so that you will see them and they will count for their past rank, obviously, right? Because they've ranked up, but you won't be able to earn them anymore going for the future. Now, I want to say that you can work on them if you want, but what you can't do is earn them for rank advancement as one of the elective adventures for rank advancement. If you want to go to your scout shop right now and buy them up because you think that this is a really fun adventure, there is nothing stopping you from going out and buying those belt loops and those pins if you can find that they're available. There's nothing stopping you from doing the elective adventure because it will still be in the handbook, right? Because we're not going to be writing, we haven't published new handbooks in a while. But you will not be able to use them as part of the advancement. So you would probably just use them for an activity to keep your kids, have some fun and keep them actually engaged in the program. What else? I think that's about it. I mean,
yep.
They won't be available at the Scout Shop. The Scout Shop will be pulling the belt loops and pins in June.
I think that's maybe a good note to make, Lisa, that these aren't activities that are no longer allowed in scouting, right? A lot of times Cub Scout packs do activities that are not for advancement. We've talked about that before, just doing things that are fun, right? And these, the guidebooks are still out there. So if you still want to work on those for fun, that's totally cool, totally fine. Like you said before, it won't be available in Scout Book to check off as a requirement. And it won't be available, the materials, the pins and things like that will not be available in the Scout Shop. So that's a good distinction I make. Thank you for saying that, Lisa. We're getting a few more comments. I want to go through these. Rob, our good friend Rob, notes that he was surprised that earning your stripes for tigers is one of the ones we're not doing. That was always a good one for first den meetings of the year because it didn't require much preparation by a brand new tiger den leader. Rob, agreed. Again, Lisa, we didn't just choose these randomly, though. This was chosen for a reason. So, Rob, if you guys like doing that, keep doing it. I say, you can't check it off as advancement, but hey, if it works out good, like you say, for a new den leader.
And I want to say, you know what? I'm not saying that these are retired forever, right? The National Cub Scouting Committee may sit back and look at them and say, you know what, we like the idea behind the adventure, but maybe it was the requirements or the activities for the requirements that people didn't like so much. So they're not retired forever. We're just saying at this particular point in time, the vast majority of our people were not interested in doing something like that. So I'm not saying that that they won't come back in some shape or form. And if you do, I'm going to do a little plug here. If you do have an idea for an adventure that you would like to promote, that you think that the kids would love to do, there is a way for you to share that with us. On scouting.org, under the preview adventures, and that's where you find modular design right now, the protect yourself rules, and the yo-yo adventure. There's a form there that you can fill out and you can submit your idea for an elective adventure. We ask you to have it single topic, kind of a guideline there on that form, and you can write out the requirements and you can submit it to us. So there you go.
Alex asks, what will happen to the remaining loops and pins? I think the answer there, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, is there aren't very many remaining loops and pins. We stopped producing those. And so, yeah, the amount that's going to be left over, not a whole lot, don't you think, Lisa?
Not a whole lot. And they will be pulled from the Scout Shops. They've been contacted. They know that they were contacted a year ago, and they've been reminded again that they need to pull those at the end of May. On May 31st, they need to pull them. Your Scout executives were just sent, they get I don't know if it's a weekly or it's a monthly newsletter with information from the National Service Center. So this information went out to all Scout executives. It is going out again to them to remind them that these 19 elective adventures are being retired.
All right. A few more quick comments, and then we're going to get into a discussion about the impact that this will have on some of the other programs, specifically maybe the Nova Awards. We'll get to that here in just a second. But Lisa, I want to make sure I acknowledge some of our folks watching here. Arnold notes that half of his Webelos are working on the Super Achiever 27 patch. They've completed all of these except one, and that one will be done in April. Good job, guys. Appreciate you doing that. We've got quite a few folks watching. Shout out to Gabby from Louisiana Troop 626, boys and girls. Thank you, Gabby. Jason notes that Jason has a question about the Wolf World Conservation World, which requires the Grow Something Adventure. Will there be new requirements for these other awards? I think we're going to get to that. That's one of the things we're going to talk about in just a second. So, Jason, we see you. We hear you. Give us just a second here. Shout out to Dawn from Pack 316 in Pennsylvania. Thank you for watching, Dawn. Christina from Pack 112 in North Babylon, New York, saying hello. Thank you, Christina. Their Wolf Den is doing most of those this year because it fit with their program. Good job, Christina. We appreciate that. Thank you. Jeremy, shout out to Jeremy from Track 257 in Northport, Florida. Jeremy is a regular viewer. We appreciate you watching, boss. Let's see. Let me just real quick shout out to Rusty from New Philadelphia, Ohio. Katie from Pack 99 in Lovington, New Mexico. Rusty, this is kind of cool, I think. Rusty says they had their Cubs do the retiring adventures just so they can say that they earned a loop that is soon going to be no longer available. Cool. That's good, Rusty. I like that. Absolutely. Okay, so Lisa, we got a lot of you folks watching. I'm sorry if I didn't get to all the shout outs. I'll try to get back to you guys throughout the show. Lisa, let's talk about the Nova Awards. The Nova Awards is a program that some of you probably will know requires some of these adventures. How does that work?
So, all right. So I might get this a little wrong because, quite frankly, the Nova program, the Nova Award program, has lots of layers and it's complicated. So it's kind of hard for me to even understand it. But from what I was able to gather, I do know that there's elective adventures that are part of the requirements for Nova. So you can, based off the Nova you're trying to earn, you can select from a list of elective adventures, or there's option A, or there's option B. For many of these Novas, you will just have fewer elective adventures to choose from, because usually there's a number of them and we're not getting, all of them are not being retired. So usually there's some elective adventures that still remain there that you could earn those. And I think there's one Nova that the elective adventure, or it doesn't have one, or doesn't have one anymore, won't at the end of May. But now you would just have to choose from doing option A or option B. So it's just removing the components from the Nova Award program. We aren't going to be adding anything to it, but there's still lots of options to get things done. We don't have to rewrite the Nova Award program at all. It's just removing those components, and there's still some things for the kids to be able to do if that's what interests you.
So yeah, it's important to note that the Nova Awards aren't going anywhere. The requirements are changing a little bit, obviously, because some of these requirements are going away, but you should still be able to do it. You might have fewer options for electives, but if that's something you guys do, go for it. We appreciate that very much.
Right.
In the interest of fairness, I just want to point out, Lisa, a very respectful comment from Stephen, who says it's too bad that some of these are going away because they enjoy doing these. I appreciate it, Stephen. I hear you, man. As we said, though, this is based on nationwide data. Appreciate all you do for the scouting program and everything like that. But again, these are the choices that we just felt we had to make. So, and for all of you, Stephen's probably not the only one who's like, oh, darn it, we really enjoyed some of these. I get it, man. And I know it's a tough decision. It's not something we take easily. So I do appreciate their comment. Katie with a good question, Lisa. Are these adventures going to be replaced?
Oh, that's a great question, Katie. So I would actually like everybody to think about adding elective adventures, and we remove elective adventures, right? Because it's not a one-for-one. If you look at each of our ranks from line through Webelos, we have a varying number of both required and elective adventures right? Required adventures to get done and elective adventures to choose from for every single rank. So just because we've retired some doesn't mean we need to replace them, right? So, but that said, please know that the National Cub Scouting Committee has been working on new elective adventures. right? Using, questions, comments, and concerns from scouts and their families, and asking and looking at what people in general are interested in. We've come up with a number of new elective adventures. I cannot release any of those yet because the BSA right now is on what we call program pause. We are not allowed to release anything, make any wholesale changes to our programs at this particular juncture. So when I'm allowed to do that, when we are allowed to do that, please believe me that you will be super excited by the new elective adventures that the National Cub Scouting Committee has put together. I'm super excited about them. Some of them are for, and some of them will even be kind of like across packs, right? You have this the same theme for the elective adventure for every single rank. So you might be able to do those as a pack activity. So I'm kind of excited about that. So it's a
Very
great
cool,
question,
yeah.
Katie.
And we've got quite a few people asking the same question, so that's a good answer, Lisa. And if I could maybe editorialize here a little bit, my opinion, I think if you're a pack or a den that really loved these retiring adventures, give the new ones a chance. You're probably going to like them too. They're probably going to be really, really good, because we've got folks, pretty smart folks like Lisa, who make these decisions. So we are excited about that. A few more shout outs. I just want to recognize Stacy from Pack 212 in Biloxi. Love Biloxi, Mississippi. Stacy, I haven't been there in a long time, but I used to go there on spring break in college. I hope Biloxi is doing well. A few other shout outs real quick, if I could. Chris from Pack 329 in Wild West, Tampa, checking in. Thank you for watching, Chris. We appreciate that. Okay, Lisa, we mentioned an impact on the NOVA Awards. Let's talk now about the impact on the World Conservation Award. Can you give us an update on that?
Sure. So Jason was asking about that. So thank you, Jason. So in the wolf rank, if for wolves for the World Conservation Award, there is a change, as well as for Webelos. So for wolves, they have to do, what's the adventure? I can't remember the adventure. There's an adventure that they have to do. So what we've done is we've taken the requirements for that adventure, I believe it was grow something, and moved that into the award requirements. So it's a 1-for-1. There's been no language change. There's been no activity change. It's the requirements for the elective adventure that's now being retired will be moved into the requirements word for word for the World Conservation Award. And that affects wolves. And then there were a couple of requirements from a couple of different adventures in the Webelos program. And those requirements will be verbatim in the World Conservation Award documentation. So you should see the updated award documentation online. You should see that in the June timeframe. I've asked for that to be updated. And we're working international committee who actually we're working with them to get that updated.
Okay, very good, Lisa. Thank you very much. A good question that Stephen asks, kind of a clarifying question. If these 19 retired adventures aren't officially being retired until the end of May, and a scout completes it before that date, they can still do it, right? They can still get the loops. That's basically the deadline.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. It's May 31st. It's, and then our new program year starts on June 1st. So at the end of May, I should say the beginning of June is when Scout Book will be updated and when the online documentation will be updated. That's when we're scheduled to get that done. So, gotcha. And again, if you have some of these belt loops or pins in your pocket and you still want to do the activity, you can so do the activity. There's a Webelos adventure called Fix It. And I've heard a number of people have reached out to me and they're so bummed about it. I just heard a story of a den leader. So Fix It is about, kind of household repairs. So he took a toilet and put it in his backyard and hooked up a hose so that it was like a working toilet. And he had the kids work on it and fix it. And I was like, my heart was aching because I was like, that is so much fun. And And here we are retiring that adventure. So if that's something that you think your Weeblers are going to want to do, that are your current bears that are going to be Weeblos next year, and you think you might want to do that, then by all means, if you want to give them recognition pieces, try to find those pins, buy them up before May 31st, do it as a fun activity, right? Hand out the pins. It just won't go against your advancement requirements. So,
but as we've discussed,
just
right, as we've discussed before, Lisa, having a meeting where you don't work on advancement is totally cool and totally okay. If the kids are having fun, parents are having fun, and if everybody's getting engaged,
right,
go for it.
Right,
yeah, absolutely.
Right. Just remember, advancement is our method. I can't say that enough. It's a method to help the den leaders be able to deliver the program. It's not the be all end all. It's great that we hand out, and we hand out immediate recognition, because we know that children do best when they get recognized for the behavior that they've done. Immediately, we get that. That's based off of youth development experts research. But the kids are just happy to do something. I mean, who wouldn't want to be having a working toilet in their den leader's backyard? I mean, seriously.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of folks commenting, a lot of a spirited discussion going in the comments right now, guys. Some folks are asking questions, and some other folks are providing answers to those questions. We appreciate that very much. Everybody so far being very courteous and kind and respectful, as any scout leader or scout should do. We appreciate that very much. Shout out to Elizabeth from Pack 416 in the Northeast. I think that's Northeast Georgia Council, NEGA. I think that's right. Northeast Georgia area. I'm not 100% sure what NEGA is. So clarify that for me, Elizabeth, if you could. A quick question from Matt. Does this mean the handbooks are being refreshed? I think you mentioned that real quick earlier. The handbooks are not being refreshed right now.
So that's a really great question. So this is what handbooks will be updated as they need to be printed, right? So we're trying to keep a lower and lower inventory of the number of handbooks so that we can make these changes as they happen. So if you have a newer version of the Weeblos handbook, we actually, that you bought and you're using for this current program year, we knew these retiring adventures were going to be happening, so we didn't put them in the Weeblos book. We also did a small run of the Bear handbook. So some of the old Bear handbook, some of them had the new handbook, just depending upon where their inventory ended up. And so some of this current year's Bear handbooks didn't have these retiring adventures in them. So it's what we call a rolling change. So if we find the inventory of the Wolf handbook is running out, or if we need to do another small run of the Bear handbook, these are just examples, they will not have the retiring adventures in them. But again, that depends upon what your scout shop is like, where you buy the handbook, and where their inventory levels are.
Very, very good. Erica notes that you mentioned a program pause earlier in your conversation, Lisa. When do we expect the program pause to end? That hopefully will be shortly, I think. I don't know if you know any more than I do, Lisa. Sometime this year?
I don't. I have no idea. I keep asking. I'm just asked to be patient. So it's out of my hands.
So Erica, when we find out about that, we will let you know. We promise. We'll be talking about it on Cub Chat Live for sure, 100%. Again, lots of good comments, lots of good questions, and scouters responding in the comment section. We appreciate that, guys, very much. We do have a few more things that we want to hit on with Lisa before we let you guys go. Lisa, Space Derby, not necessarily what people think about as being a Cub Scout requirement. We do have some news to report on the Space Derby. Lisa, can you update us on the status of that activity, I guess? I mean, the activity is still here, but the item from the Scout Shop might not be, right?
The item for the Scout Shop isn't going to be there anymore. We ran low at the inventory of the Space Derby kits. We went back to the vendor to see if they could provide us some more kits. Not very many packs do the Space Derby. It's not popular like the Pinewood Derby or the rain gutter regatta. But the vendors said, yeah, we don't do the Space Derby kits anymore. So we tried to find another vendor, and we really couldn't find one that can meet the price point that we were interested in. So Space Derby as an option is still there. If you can find some Space Derby kits or want to build your own Space Derby kits and do a Space Derby with your den or your pack, feel free to do that. But you won't be finding the Space Derby kits in the Scout shops with the BSA logo on them anymore.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for that update, Lisa. We've got lots of folks in the comments expressing, shall we say, disappointment that Fix-It is no longer available. And again, I would say, just like I said to the gentleman earlier, I feel you. I know if that's something you enjoy doing, hey, you can still do it. Just a reminder, you can still do that. You just can't check it off as an elective adventure in Scout Club.
Right. And I don't want to say it's gone forever. I'm just saying we had a bottom line. If less than 10% of the youth were completing this and sales fell below that 10%, we were going to retire it. That doesn't mean that it won't come back in some way, shape, or form at some particular point. We just need to take a look at it.
Yes. A quick question from Ashley, Lisa, talking about new electives. You've piqued interest, I think, by mentioning new electives. Will any of them be done online only, like we've done for some of them now? Are there any thoughts on adding some online only electives?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So not right. I'm going to answer that by saying not right now. When we come off a program pause, we hope to, our goal is to produce a book with the updated elective adventures in there. I will say that the National Cub Scouting Committee is looking at a way of possibly releasing new elective adventures after program pause and after the new handbook comes out, with the ability to release new elective adventures on an ongoing basis without having to update the handbook. So the way to do that would be you just pull them down off of our scouting.org website. So I don't know if that's exactly what she was asking, or if she's asking if it's something that the kids would actually sit in front of a computer and do. And no, we don't have anything like that. And we don't have any intention of doing anything like that right now.
Yeah, I think she's asking about like the yo-yo adventure, for example, which we put online, if there'd be anything more like that. So stay tuned.
You know what, I'm working on it. We are trying so hard to add to our preview adventures, and we can do that if we have a corporate sponsor. So right now, that's what I'm looking for. We've been asking people, and there's been some discussions, but no decisions made. But if I have a corporate sponsor, somebody who's going to allow me to have some revenue to be able to produce an adventure, I will put them up on the preview site. Absolutely. Because we have modular design. About a year ago, we added modular design.
She mentioned modular design. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. We've got a lot of folks, Lisa, expressing their opinions in the comments. We appreciate everyone's passion and also their civility and again, courtesy. I appreciate that very much. Wendy says, thanks for the additional insights so we can explain to our den leaders and parents. We're definitely going to miss a few of them. Wendy, we appreciate you doing that. We have, again, just another minute or two with Lisa and a couple of more things we want to touch on. A few items that were retired a few years ago that we are now getting to very low inventory. Lisa, can you tell us about those real quick?
Right. So there was some, these are what we call rolling changes. So we've decided we're trying to simplify the program. Right now we have so many different layers, and our goal is really to simplify the program to make it easier for people to know what they should be getting and what they don't need to worry about. So for example, a few years ago, we decided to stop producing den leader patches that specifically say Tiger Den Leader and Weeblo's Den Leader. So all the new patches just say Cub Scout Den Leader. So In your scout shops, you might have seen some inventory with the Tiger and the Webelos den leader as opposed to the Cub Scout den leader. So inventory is running really low on that. So those will be going away. Den specific flags, the flags with the den number on them, those are being retired. That's kind of a rolling change as we run low on inventory. We won't be producing those anymore. So you'll start to see that we don't have den flags anymore. Den number patches, the kids have, what den number they're in. So anything, we'll still have 1 through 11, but 12 and above, those would be a special order. We will not be producing those and having those inventory numbers available. So it'll just be den 1 through den 11, 12 and higher. It'll be a special order through supply.
Gotcha. Okay.
And again, those changes were announced, a few years ago. And it's what we call a rolling change. And so it's just now hitting our inventory. We've sold down enough that people are going to start to see that or not see them, as the case may be.
Yes, got it. Again, as we close out our show, thank you all for watching. Lisa says she is sad to see Adventures in Science leaving. Lisa, appreciate your comment. I understand, I get it. I do think a few folks, Lisa, in the comments seem to be concerned about the use of the term program pause. I just want to explain, make sure we clarify that the Cub Scouting program is not paused. I think what's pausing or making any changes and things like that, right?
Right. And you know what? I would like to apologize for using, because that's my nomenclature. We're on program plus.
Right,
so
yeah.
I don't want to cause
that was
any
a little
confusion. So I would like to apologize for that.
Yes, right.
Yeah. It's like the acronyms, and I'm always on people about acronyms, right? So I would like to clarify that. What I'm saying is we are not allowed to update the program at this particular time. We've been asked, and it's not just Cub Scouts, it's all of the BSA programs. We are not allowed, we have been asked to not release anything new with our program right now, right? So being respectful of that, we're doing that. But I will say, if there's something that if a program change needs to happen because of safety, that will happen. But anything to do with, advancement or activities or anything like that, we won't be releasing anything new until we can.
And we call it a pause for a reason. It's not a stop. It's just a pause. We appreciate everyone's patience as the organization works through everything over the last few years. And hopefully, hey, we'll have resolution soon. Elizabeth asks, is there a summary document summarizing these changes? I think the best summary document is that Brian on Scouting Post. We mentioned that earlier in the show. We'll see if we can get behind the scenes Gina today. Maybe she could show that URL up one more time before we let the folks go. Lisa, have we touched on everything we need to touch on? Do we need to let people know one more thing about these changes?
You know what, Aaron, I think that we touched on everything. We have 19 elective adventures that are retiring because less than 10% of our youth were earning them. And that was based on the sales and advancement data. We've discussed the changes to the NOVA program and the World Conservation Award. Those won't be changing at all. A few less options for NOVA, but World Conservation is just a 1-for-1. You still have to do everything that's actually out there. And then we spent a little bit of time on the unfortunate demise of the Space Derby. And unless you want to find your own, right? Build your own, go for it. Would love for you to be able to do that. And then some of the rolling changes that we announced several years ago that are just coming to fruition now because we've got a reduction in inventory. So again, I just want to remind everybody that the Cub Scout program is the largest program within the Boy Scouts of America. We have more youth registered in Cub Scouts than any of our other 5 programs. And we are constantly looking at the program and what speaks to our families and the youth that are actually doing the program right now and what works for them and what's not working for them. So you will always see changes in Cub Scouts, right? We need to reflect what our families desire and what they want, and they speak very loudly with, what they buy and what they don't buy. And that's what I respond to. It's not, I personally love the fix it adventure, but I can't make a decision based off of my personal opinion. So again, just keep that in mind. We're being very data driven, as well as nothing is forever. And we will always be changing. We will always be updating.
One last question before we go, Lisa. I just want to clarify for Chris. These 19 electives, these are not all of the electives. There are still some electives there that are available. So Chris, yeah, this is not the elimination of all electives. We just eliminated the ones that basically the fewest people were working on.
And think about this, there's about 4 or 5 per rank. So when we think of 19, we're like, oh my gosh. But if you think of it, it's about 4 or 5 per rank. Nothing in lions was touched. There's 4 in tiger and 4 or 5 in wolf, bear, and webelos. But there's still lots of choices, lots and lots of choices.
Yes, right. Appreciate, again, all of the feedback we're getting online. Again, a lot of passionate Scouters out there and parents. We appreciate that passion very, very much. That's what makes the program so great, right? It's passion like that, and the really, the strong feelings for Scouting and Cub Scouting that make our leaders so great. We appreciate you guys very much. Thanks for your patience. Thank you for watching. Lisa, excellent job today. As usual.
Thank you.
Nothing new there. Lots of changes, but nothing new there. So Lisa, we appreciate your time. Thank you guys for watching. We will be back with another episode of Cub Chat Live next week. Thank you all for watching. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye, everybody. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, Lisa.